Welcome to our next purpose on Tuesday as readers. Vocabulary. I can use context clues such as synonyms to determine the meaning of tricky words. Our to-do, watch this synonym video, complete your synonym ed puzzle, and on your Reading Wonders backpack, if you have an assignment for December 8th, Tuesday, complete your vocab synonyms workbook page. Make sure you follow all of the directions and you use what I like to call this resource box to help you better understand those synonyms if you need a reminder. So our purpose as readers, I can use context clues such as synonyms to determine the meaning of tricky words. What is a synonym? A synonym is a word that has the same meaning. So two words that mean the same thing are synonyms. Sometimes you can use the context clues for words that you don't know. So some synonyms that we might read, I'll pick a few on here. If you are bad, a word that sounds different but means the same thing is naughty. Those two words are synonyms. If you are in the center of the line, a word that sounds different but means the same thing would be middle. You are in the middle of the line. If you have to choose your favorite fruit at the grocery store, another word, a synonym that you could use in that sentence is I select my favorite fruit at the grocery store. So choose and select are two words that sound different but mean the same thing. They are, you got it, synonyms. My ice cream dropped on the floor. My ice cream fell on the floor. Drop and or fall or dropped and fell are synonyms. Two words that sound different but mean the same thing. Now you can take a moment to pause this video and read the rest of the chart and find more synonyms. What are other words that sound different but mean the same thing? And I challenge you to use the synonyms in a sentence. Let's go back into the text and see how we can use synonyms as context clues to help us determine the meaning of those tricky words. Now that I'm back in the text, Inchworm's tail, I'm going to identify a tricky word and look for its synonym to help me determine the meaning of that tricky word. So, for example, in the second paragraph, we have a word highlighted in green, expanded. And as a third grader, I might have never used that word in a sentence. So that would be tricky for me. Well, I can reread the sentence looking for a word that might mean the same thing, a synonym. A strange and mysterious thing happened as they slept. The rock beneath them grew and expanded until it reached the clouds. Well, there's some clues here. What happened to the rock? It grew. Then the author uses this word and, letting us know that expanded means the same thing as grew. Grew and expanded. So it did the same thing. So I have a synonym. So expanded really means grew or got bigger. Let's reread this last paragraph to help us understand the meaning of this tricky word, unharmed. Hawk was unable to carry the children down the rock, so he gathered lots of food for them to eat. Then he brought large leaves to keep them warm. Hawk wanted to make sure they were safe and unharmed. So there's those same clues that the author's using. That word "and" tells me there's a synonym around in the context clue. So Hawk wanted to make sure they were safe. So what's happening? Well, Hawk's trying to keep the children safe so that they're not hurt. And unharmed. So safe means you're not hurt. So unharmed must mean you're not hurt. So those are synonyms. Two words that sound different but mean the same thing. Let's look at the next page. We have another word highlighted in green. Now this word I have never used as a third grader, so it's definitely pretty tricky. But I've had two examples of how to identify synonyms, and sometimes the author will use that word "and" to show me that there's the same meaning, but sometimes as a third grader, I have to think what's happening in order to find that synonym, so it might be a little trickier. Let's read these two sentences. Bear's huge claws were good for climbing up trees. So I have to ask myself, what's happening here? We have Bear. What's he doing? Climbing up trees. Okay, so we have Bear and he's climbing. However, they could not help him scale rocks. So what would Bear do up those rocks? There is a word in this paragraph that means the same thing as scale. What do you think would make sense there? Let's check your thinking. Bear's huge claws were good for climbing up trees. So we know Bear's climbing. However, they could not help him scale rocks. Well, could we plug in that word climbing in for scale and see if it makes sense? However, they could not help him climb rocks. Does that sound right and make sense? We just identified a synonym in the text that has the same meaning to determine the meaning of the word scale. All right, third graders, we just met our purpose as readers today. I can use context clues such as synonyms to determine the meaning of tricky words. Remember, those synonyms are two words that'll sound different, but they're going to mean the same thing. Use this video as a resource to help you with your work today.